Martha Nussbaum begins her wonderful book, The Fragility of Goodness, with a line from Pindar. But human excellence, that's arete or virtue, grows like a vine tree, fed by the green dew, raised up among wise men and just to the liquid sky. In one long, stunning paragraph, Nussbaum sketches the central idea of her book, namely that human capacity is a fragile thing. It requires care, recognition, and support in order to flourish. A virtue ecology comprises the total environment in which human agents develop their person-affirming capacities. When human beings exercise virtue in response to the needs and outlooks of other people, the shifting dangers and affordances of the situation, and their own skills and strengths, they are responding to what philosophers call moral luck. My current guide into these issues in Shakespeare has been the Dutch humanist and theologian Erasmus. As Ross Dealey has recently argued, Erasmus developed the Stoic concept of oikeiosis, variously translated as instinct for self-preservation, consciousness of self, appropriation, orientation, affiliation, affinity, and attachment. According to Dealey, Erasmus retooled Stoic oikeiosis in order to present a view of natural instinct that would counter the pessimism of Augustine, provide a compassionate portrait of Christ's humanity, and support the project of peace. In his Erasmian studies of Shakespeare, Donald Wares has translated oikeiosis as eco-sociability, in which the interlocking reciprocities of the cosmos enable and underlie human habitation. Erasmus and Shakespeare share this eco-sociable outlook, which includes a festive comportment that cultivates recreation and play, an irenic and ecumenical approach to wisdom, a respect for women's virtuous capacity, and an inclusive outlook on creaturely life. Today, I will focus on the Erasmian humanism of As You Like It. In this play, Shakespeare builds a multi-dimensional portrait of virtue as lively, gracious, embodied, performative, hospitable, and always open to irony. That is, aware of the costs and conditions of virtue in the world. That is, virtue's exposure to moral luck. I am really drawn to the depiction of nature and human nature in Erasmus's commentary on the adage, "War is sweet to those who have not tried it. Dulce bellum in expertis." There, Erasmus lays out an account of human nature that highlights our mutual vulnerability, sociability, and kinship with animal life. He describes man as a gentle animal, which nature created to be peaceful and well-disposed to fellow creatures. Of all created things, think here of a baby. Man comes into the world naked, weak, delicate, unarmed, with very soft flesh and a smooth skin, right? No fur or porcupines. This vulnerability makes the human creature reliant on the care of others, requiring the development of relational virtues such as gratitude and trust. Detailing a gestural grammar of love and affection, he writes that nature gave man friendly eyes, revealing the soul. She gave him the embrace. She gave him the kiss, an experience in which souls touch and unite. I love this image of justice and peace kissing, illustrating Psalm 85. So, how does a naturally gentle species become bellicose? want to practice war. Echoing the teachings of Pythagoras, Erasmus finds the origins of war in the killing of animals, first in self-defense and then in the hunt. This habit of killing creatures from other species, Erasmus argues, bred the taste for war among men. In Erasmus's account, aggression and violence grow out of our embeddedness as human creatures with other creatures in the world, and don't really result from original sin per se, at least not in this essay. For Erasmus, both sin and grace are born in eco-sociable dependency. So how does Shakespeare share in this vision? And As You Like It, the Duke's first speech combines scriptural and Stoic sentiments within an Erasmian affirmation of the goodness of nature, including the goodness of human nature. The Duke makes a classically Stoic case for adjusting to the reality of the situation, adjusting to the vicissitudes of moral luck, through an act of affirmational redescription of present circumstances. It's a kind of a spiritual exercise. How can I redescribe what has happened to me in ways that I can live with? Like Erasmus, Duke Sr. mollifies the austerity of the stereotypical Stoic stage with an embodied openness to what sensation properly entertained might teach him about his own condition. He says, these are counselors that feelingly persuade me what I am. Feeling refers both to the bare sensation of cold and the subjectivization of that sensation into a scene of virtuous education. Notice that the Duke addresses his followers as co-mates and brothers in exile, emphasizing their heightened relationships of reciprocity in a scene of heightened exposure to moral luck. The Duke's speech begins in a scriptural mode, evoking the fall as what inaugurates the penalty of Adam, including the harshness of the seasons. Yet, in the play's characteristically Erasmian mode, the fact of Adam's sin does not negate the essential goodness of creation. In Genesis, God affirms his creation with the adjective good and very good, tov and tov ma'od. So too, the Duke finds good in everything. The Duke's everything both points to the expansiveness of creation in its totality and echoes the very that heightens God's assessment of his work at the end of the sixth day. Good in everything? Death within creation? Really? What would Augustine think? I turn to theologian and intellectual historian Jennifer Hurt for help on this question. In her stunning study of Augustine's take on ethics, Hurt explores Augustine's critique of heroic pagan virtue as simply a form of glittering vice, and then she highlights Erasmus's more affirmative view of grace, which comes from God and not from the human person, grace as enabling rather than displacing human agency. What Hurt says of Erasmus is also true of Shakespeare and As You Like It. Grace is active in our acting, in the beauty of virtue displayed that engages and transforms our affections, allowing us to play a part that becomes our own as we play it. Think of Rosalind and Orlando. Like Pindar's vine at the opening of Nussbaum's Fragility of Goodness, this good in everything flourishes in the cracks of moral luck and requires communal tending by co-mates in exile. Having comforted himself and his troops, the Duke does something kind of weird. He turns to hunting. Like Erasmus, the Duke understands that hunting inflames human aggression and requires moral management and attention in order to be integrated into the eco-sociable philosophy of virtue. Unlike Pythagoras, however, Duke Sr. and his companions do not actively entertain vegetarianism. Jaques' extraordinary discourse on hunting and on animal grief, illustrated here by William Blake, dramatizes Erasmus's turn from man's natural gentleness to the emergence of aggression through self-defense, meat-eating, and the pursuit of glory. Virtue is everywhere in Shakespeare's Arden. Whereas the word is associated etymologically with man and manliness, the Latin vir, and with that heroic self-sufficiency that Augustine deplored, Shakespeare's Arden is a congeries of microclimates that nurture the relational virtues of eco-sociability, including hospitality, kindness, gentleness, and care. The doe tending to her fawn and the lioness sucked dry by her cub emblematize the maternal and feminine face of virtue as eco-sociable. Androgynous Rosalind leads gentle Orlando in a graceful dance that freely shares male and female qualities between them. The play handles these visions of concord with a sense of their fragility and also their compromises. The irony of Touchstone and Jaques invite our evaluative inquiry into the limits of virtuous self-fashioning in a world beset by moral luck and inequalities both old and new. I think that the effect of such irony, however, is not to reject virtue as either the mirage of self-love or a trick of ideology, but rather to use the tools that the play gives us in order to exercise the virtues of community with greater justice, more self-knowledge, and, in the words of the great Bible scholar Otis Redding, a little tenderness.